You guys looking for the guide for Theodore, and is he actually worth investing in? And you know what? This is what today's video is. We've done our first impressions, and it's been all of Season 2 now, and we're right at the end, and guess what? We've had enough time, we've seen him in action, we've seen how well he can actually do. So I'm going to give my opinion on him and the full guide if you want to use Theodore in this one video. What's up everyone? Yes, smash a like, comment and subscribe for more daily videos of me, MrSneakyy, an official Call of Dragons content creator. And we've got Theodore. Theodore's on the table, and you can see I don't own him yet. But this is where we're going to go straight into things, right? Because you can obtain him 3 different ways. The first one is the very beginning of season, when you get the special wheel that comes up, and on that wheel you can unlock either Theodore, Forindel, Sindrion, and Freygar. So you get like a free chance at potentially unlocking him, so you can do that. If you don't want to do that way, the only major way is through the strongest lord. So you're going to have to compete against the other players in either PvP on stage 6, or you're going to have to like save all your speed ups and resources to power up in that strongest lord event. But this is the big but now, and I've got a really good date for you. So basically, as you can see on my time, this is the 28th of October, right? But what's important is the Augur Stone. So basically, in the Augur Stone, when you get to Unscarred and you get the Conventional Offerings event, so this is basically right at the end of the season. So when this is completed in the game, when you go to the daily deals, you can actually switch to Theodore, and you're going to see here, Theodore's only 1 day and 16 hours away. So you can imagine, if you was wondering when he actually appears in this, it's only 3 or 4 days before. So it was only around Monday, Tuesday of this week. So you're going to see him at the end of this season. So if you want to buy him, you're going to have to wait, and then you can basically click this button, switch him, and buy the daily deals, and hopefully unlock him and power him up. But is he worth it? Is he actually worth it? And you know what? We're going to go through his skills. I'm going to explain some really powerful things about Theodore, and then I'm going to leave it in a situation where I think it's going to be worth it for certain players, but I think for the majority, you might want to just actually avoid this one. I'm not going to lie. So when we look at Theodore's skills, his first skill is a really powerful skill. It's a 1400 damage smack in their face, and he bruises them, which reduces their HP by 30%. Absolutely crazy amount of debuff in here. And when we go and start going towards his next skills, this is where it gets really good, because it gets 30% defense and 10% march speed, making those cavalry units really tanky. And then we go to the third skill, and this is where things are going to start going a bit shaky. But this is a rally specific or garrison a city specific skill. So when garrison a city or stronghold, Theodore's Legion has a 20% chance to gain vigor and attack resistance when hit by an attack. So you can see this is for the garrison leaders, right? So this is a very T5 heavy skill. That's what I'm going to say for you guys. This is what this skill is intended for. It's not intended for all the normal players, because you guys, like me, we just care about open fielding and joining rallies, right? That's what we want to do. So this actually doesn't really matter to us. But his third skill is a very interesting one. So each time Theodore inflicts a debuff effect on the enemy legion via a hero skill, he will gain 1 stack of Consul's Mark, a maximum of stack 3. All stacks of Consul's Mark are consumed when Theodore casts a rage skill, increasing damage dealt by that skill. And this is a damage increase going by 20%, and it can be stacked, right, up to 60%. So it's a really powerful skill when you look at the fact that he does have one way of triggering this off, right, which is great. And the one thing you're going to realize is it is a hero skill debuff. So we need to be looking, honestly, at other heroes that he could be paired with that apply debuffs. And I'm not saying this is what you should do, but just for an example, this is a 20% taken damage taken bonus, right? So the target takes that extra 20%. That is a debuff. So he's going to be able to get 2 effects because of Indis and Theodore. So we can look at obviously other commanders in the game later and tell you what we can suggest for that skill. But you can tell this could be something in the future, and this is what I think this hero is actually all about, because when you finally max him out as a T5 player, you're going to take 25% less normal attack damage, and that skill is broken too. I'm just saying, like, these 2 skills are really powerful with this skill too, and even this second skill is pretty good, right? So if you were looking at it as a cavalry player, maybe you are, you're not an archer player, mage player, you're a low spender, and you actually love playing cavalry, I'm going to suggest you can unlock this hero, and I would unlock him and try and get him 5-5-1-1 and just chill there for a while, because you could try to get the 5-5-1-5 with your skill resets, and that would give you honestly the maximum punch that you're going to need in the PvP combat system. But I just think that's too much requirement and investment to make this hero really, really well. And that's where we go to the T5 and higher spenders. Is it worth it for you guys? Most definitely. Because this guy, I believe, is going to be one of your main heroes that you're going to be using in the future. So when we start getting Garrison-based heroes and other cavalry heroes, we now have a Theodore that's a Garrison-based cavalry unit, like someone like in Rise of Kingdoms, Jadwiga, for example, that could be used in that style of meta for T5 players. So it is something you guys need to keep your eye on, because if you are considering being that guy, you will need him awakened. I'm just going to be honest with you. So, what pairings have I seen Theodore being used with? And the main one I've actually seen, and you guys can always imagine this straight away, is the Bakshi Theodore combo. And the way this combo works is been a rally lead-in combo. So you run this as a rally, and Bakshi is the primary hero in this. And I think it's just because when you run Bakshi as the primary hero, you just get access to the skill tree and the cavalry tree, which is a lot better. Oops, wrong button. Which is a lot better than your Theodore that has the, I know he has the same, but you're going to be most likely trying to use this guy as, a main cavalry talent tree hero with a little bit of an off skill on skills, which we're going to showcase in a moment, or Garrison, right? We're not going to make him go heavy in the skill tree, just because, honestly, you don't want to copy 2 of the same talent builds. As you guys know, talent builds are very expensive to switch between. It's 1,000 gems. Or if you get lucky and you can buy some of those hero, retrain books in the Goblin Market for a little bit cheaper, around 600 to 700 gems if you get a really good reduction. It's still a big ask. So what we want to do is make sure our heroes have got different roles set for them, right? And at the moment in Season 2, we're going to be honest, Theodore's just been a secondary hero. He really has. I've not really seen him being a primary. The only time I've seen him being a primary is if you're trying to purposely run 5 cavalry units on the field. That's the only way I've ever seen this guy being pumped out, right? But when we're looking at other pairings, he does have actually some crazy stuff, which is kind of cool. I have seen the comments, and I know you guys are probably wondering how this is going to work with Nika, because Nika obviously does also a bruise, and which is really good. And the fact that she does also a bruise, if you're using normal cavalry units, which is the League of Order, or the the Spring Eagles, or the Wolf Riders, basically the melee based cavalry units, and not the Spring Wardens ranged ones, you can use Theodore and Nika only with those civilizations. So just remember, if you're Wilderberg or League of Order, you can do this. And the reason why is because it is another bruise mechanic, and it is in theory the same concept as the MrSneakyy combo, where you're only caring about this skill and you're caring really heavily about this skill. In this, you're not really getting anything out of it, and obviously in this you're not really getting anything out of it, but when you do have her expertise, you will also have this bleed effect, which is really good. So the fact that you can run basically 2 heroes that just go bang bang and do double bruising effects on them, you won't do, I believe, a 60%. It doesn't stack. All it will do is just refresh your timer, or it will maintain the current debuff that is on them, right? But it's the fact that you will apply a bruise and then a turn and then another bruise. So it does work. It's just not as great as people might assume it to be. Other combos you can do, as you can imagine, would be Emrys. Like we've said, Emrys is really good, and Forindel. Obviously, the 2 guys work together really good because we apply a different debuff through Cowardice now on Forindel, and then we put the bruise effect through Theodore. We've got great punching power and really good flexibility, so this can allow Theodore in the future to be a primary hero while you have the Forindel in the secondary slot, or if you really wanted the march speed and increased damage dealt, you can swap them over and let the Forindel take primary and Theodore being secondary. It's actually a really cool combo that you can do, and it allows you as a player just to have that little bit of flexibility when we're looking at the main guy, right? So if you're wondering what artifacts, the artifacts is pretty simple for Theodore. You would honestly want to rock Kingslayer. I'm just going to be honest. Kingslayer is a really powerful artifact for your Theodore. It's going to do some nice damage. But the really cool thing is, again, if you get that little 10% execute on the targets, you could honestly cleave and get some free kills out of nowhere. Another really good all-star for this in Season 2 specifically is if you're running Theodore with another cavalry unit, because they have near attack range. They don't have melee, meaning the ranged cavalry unit for Spring Wardens works with them. And a really good one is Wolfwoman of Halo, because this gives you a bunch of tankiness with the HP and the damage dealt, taken reduction. It's a really good combination. But in the Season 2 meta, you will see yourself on areas where you can blink across a river or over terrain or on top of a mountain and put your cavalry in a position where it can fight an enemy keep. And by fighting an enemy keep, you're going to gain basically the ability to instantly nuke it because of the unit advantage, and then basically run back. It's really, really good. Like, you generate so much more rage as a cavalry player compared to most units, so you always hit your rage skill first and then you blink back, so they just don't ever have a return. So it's a really good one for you guys to run too. But they can always run in open field, Spring Blades, your Fang of Ashkari, and even Sauron's Blade. Just any of those that you've got, and even Centaur's Bow if you really, really want, if you haven't got anything else, and even the Cloak of Stealth, right? So these are really good different artifacts that you could be rocking on that Theodore right now. If you're wondering how I've had this information, I've been asking everyone, right? I've been asking all the main T5 players, I've been asking even the T4 players that have unlocked him, and to be honest, we've been watching him. We've been kind of watching quite a lot of players use him in different servers, and this is the kind of unanimous verdict that I've come up with, where it seems like Theodore is a good hero. He's not bad. He's actually really cool. The fact that for a T5 rally lead, that's where the talk becomes more, advantageous, because you're doing basically a 30% health reduction in a rally. And with Backshare, you're increasing your health because you have him expertise by 30%. So you're getting a 60% HP differential in the fight, which is just nuts. It's actually just bonkers when you have that in a rally situation. So that's why for a T5 player, the whole area is how it is. So what we're going to do is go into the talent trees. I know I can't technically go into them, but we do have the cavalry and skill tree available on our back sheet. So we've been using some examples from there. And then we have the garrison tree, which is easy because we can use the garrison tree from Garwood, and we can just show you the garrison tree. And it's the same garrison tree you're most likely going to be using for any garrison lead currently, because I just think it's the best garrison tree in the entire game. And we're going to go over the Garrison tree first. I think if we go through the Garrison tree, all the T5 players will appreciate it. And obviously, you guys that maybe are looking for a Garrison tree for your city, or maybe for your Bakar, or anyone, will basically run the exact same tree. So I thought if I go through this first, and then we go into the major PvP ones, it makes sense. So we've got here the Garrison tree, and when you're picking Garrisons, I'm just going to let you guys know, your foundational talents will change. I know the Holy Trinity is attack, march speed, and that health, which is true for open field combat. But when you're serving as a garrison leader, you're most likely inside the building, and your city is generally always teleported within a 10 to 15 second march distance. So you should be always in there and able to get back in and so forth. So what you actually care about as a garrison is stats. That's all you care about, is the best stats that you can give to yourself. So here we're going to go for the Trinity for Garrison, which is attack, defense, and HP. So we get all the actual defensiveness and stats that we need for our march. So then you're going to gain, obviously, your main stone for Theodore, and then we hit the Garrison tree here. And the Garrison tree is a nutty tree, and this is, I think, the best way of making the Garrison. I'm going to talk about the main talent in a second, but this is the best tree in the game. And the reason is that you get too many stats that the enemies can't deal with, and you just overwhelm him, right? So you have a bunch of HP, you get a bunch of defense on top of it, and this is great because the more HP and defense you have, the more counterattack damage is like better. It just scales better with the more HP and defense you have, because it means you can survive longer per hit, meaning you get more counterattack hits. So that means we're having a 10% increase in counterattack damage. It is absurd how much this is in the game. And you can put this with other heroes that obviously in the future might have counterattack damage amplifiers in their kit, and that's why it's scary. So we get to the main talent, and this is where things are going to be a little bit shaky for some T5 players. And why I say this is because of artifacts. So if you are a T5 player that has maxed heroes, obviously maxed T5, but your artifacts aren't maxed out, you know, they're just pretty good at the moment, you're most likely going to take fair defense. Sounds a bit cringe, I know, but you will take this, because the reason you're taking this is to stop your allies, well, your enemies, should I say, from activating their rally or garrison artifact that might be maxed out and, you know, 6 stars and yours isn't. And if you can do that, it just disables all of it, and it just turns it into who can hit the most damage and who can basically reinforce. It's a bit of a boring fight, but it does help those players that are kind of in a weaker situation. But if you want to be the Chad, and I think you should be always feeling like you are the best player and the best Chad in the game, Fallen Barrier is the best thing in the game. You are just a sitting monster, because whenever you launch a counterattack, which we do, and we deal 10% more damage because of it, we inflict a chance of putting a an 8% attack and defense reduction on them, and a defense break, which is crazy. Like, you know, like reducing their defense and their attack by 8% just by counterattacking for 3 seconds is crazy. And if you read this doesn't even really state a cooldown, so I don't honestly know the internal cooldown. So what I would imagine is this would be after 3 seconds, it would be back up. But you can imagine on the first turn, you're most likely not going to trigger Thorn Barrier. So you might get it on the second or third turn after, right? So it is going to probably be a luck-based one because of that 10% chance. But I'm telling you, this thing is nasty when you go into PvP and Garrison as a T5 player. So when we go into the final tree, this is where you honestly are going to spend every single point for a Garrison leader. I don't care whoever you watch in the future, whoever you think is the better content creator, if they put points into any of these talents down here, they are trolling you. I'm telling you right now. Because you do not get the same amount of scale and point value for attributes that you do in this talent tree. It's absurd how good this talent tree is. So for 5 points, we can get 10%. 10% increased skill damage compared to the 4% here. So we immediately do that. And what I would suggest, you can do a different couple of routes here on these two trees, but I personally think you should go tough Garrison first to take 10% less hero skill damage from your opponent, and then you go into the 5% increase to all damage dealt. This is crazy. It's just crazy how much you get for this 5 points. Then you grab your Sacred Realm, so whenever you're going to get hit, you have that little bit of a chance to get healed, which is nice when your Garrison artifact is off cooldown. And then what you do is stay in the tree. And what I would advise is go Arrogance to get yourself that insane rage generation now for your build. You would then also gain Grumpy if you want. You don't have to go too heavy into it, but I would suggest just going 5 out of 5 just so you have the most rage generation, and you can basically maintain that 60% differential at the moment when you're running Theodore Backsheet as the Garrison. So you can obviously hit them with the 30% bruise and increase yourself by 30%, and you just keep that up. And having that 60% increase is going to win you the fight, I'm telling you. Then what you will do with your last point, so you just got to think, at the moment this is level 50. So we're at level 50 now, and you're wondering, where do I put my last 10 points, right? We've got 10 points left to rock. So what we do is, when we go back to that Garrison tree, we can put 3 of them straight away into here. And this is going to allow us to have 5 out of 5. So we now have 7 points remaining. And what I would do is put 5 points into Garrison Resistance. This is going to allow you to take 5% less damage. Again, it's just flat damage. So any sort of damage that's coming at you, you're taking 5% less of it. That is counterattack, skill, normal, crit. Yeah, it's a nuts talent. I know. Then it's up to you. I'm not going to lie, it's kind of up to you what you want to do with your last 2 points, because you do only have 2 points after this, because 3 plus 5 is 7. 3 plus 5 is 8, so you have 2 left. So you could spread it in between these. Well, in between these 2, if you really wanted. It's a really cool combo. So the theory behind it as a Garrison leader, and I think any Garrison leader who's still watching this part will understand, you can put 1 point just to take in 2% less normal attack damage, which is nice, or the option is to put obviously both points in to take 4% less, which is great. But if you put just 1 point here, if you're defending a pass, right, and you're trying to stop the enemy from invading into your zone, they could be multi-rallying you. And if they send in 3 rallies or 2 rallies at you, you are getting surrounded. So flank protection in here is a 15% damage reduction from that surrounded bonus, which is really, really good. So I'm just going to say you can split your last 2 points how you want in this area. And that is the Garrison tree. So let's go over now to the main PvP builds that I think you should be running on your Theodore. And these are going to be the PvP talents that you want for Theodore. So we've got Bakshi on screen right now. We've got the Cavalry and Skill tree. So the one I'm showcasing here is the Bakshi tree. So don't get this confused. If you are running this exact page and obviously going towards having Intimidation, perfect ferocity, a marksman to finish off, if you are doing this build on your Bakshi, good job, you like me, you're doing a great thing. But for your Theo, do not put this build on him. We're going to run a different build, and we've got 2 to choose from if you want a PvP build. So I'm going to run the one that I would give most players that really want to just have a good idea and basically kind of embrace what Theodore is. That is a kind of tanky based, nasty bruising hero. So we go down the Cavalry tree, and we're going to obviously get the Holy Trinity here of Foundation talents. Then we go into Cavalry, and we've got the marksman speed. Obviously, we've got to take it, 15%. But what we go for in this, compared to most other units for cavalry, we are going to take egoism to reduce the amount of damage we take. So we, as a Theodore player, can get in. We want to get in to always apply that debuff without taking that much damage and take advantage of that. So then we're going to now deal more damage and a combo with Perfect Ferocity to allow us increasing, when we go into that instant battle, guess what? We're increasing our hero skill damage by 15%. So it's really, really good for the first 10 seconds, which means you are guaranteed this in the start of combat, no matter what ranged unit you use for, obviously, cavalry. Then what I would also then go for in the next section straight away is Swift Analysis to maintain this embracing of trying to take as little damage as possible while just pumping out damage. What we're going to do though is I'm going to just explain the next bit, because the next bit is a little bit of a complicated one. So I'm going to suggest you take this 3 and 2 split only if you are running cavalry based heroes in like a 3 or 4 swarm and you're trying to get them all to run at the same speed. Because if you're going to do that, all your cavalry marchers need to always have this little combo here in amount of march speed to allow them to work together when they're kiting with like ranged Spring Wardens cavalry, for example. But if you're not bothered about trying to get all your cavalry running at the exact same speed and you just want to try and get the best bang for your buck, just take Guerrilla. I'm not going to lie. You are always marching with cavalry and you are going to be marching towards them when you're trying to kill them with the Wolf Riders and the Knights. So you're going to be taking a nice amount of damage reduction here. 2.5% less damage, and that's all sources, guys, is a really powerful talent to take. So I would really suggest taking this as a 5 out of 5 talent if you don't want to get this nice little attack and march speed combo where all of your cavalry run it like I do. Then what I would always suggest though is Triumphant Return, because it allows your cavalry players to go in combat and come out of combat quite often, and ranged Spring Wardens love this because it allows them to really kite really nasty and always heal, which is really cool. And then we finish off with Blood Mark, as always. This is just a really good skill for Theodore to put in his kit. And then when we go into here, we're going to, like I say, maintain our job. And we're going to get the attack. We're going to get as much health now to maintain our tankiness. But then we're going to get heads held high. We need the rage generation in Theodore's kit. If you're not running someone like the Bakshi or Emrys behind him, say you're running something weird behind him, or maybe a future hero, you're definitely going to need head held high just to give you that extra bit of rage generation. But you'll notice with Theodore, Emrys, Theodore, Bakshi, that rage accumulation speed from the passion triggers you're going to get is nice. So you're not going to really feel it too hard. So I would get head held high at 5 out of 5. And then what I would do, and it's a bit of a crazy one for once, but I'm going to go Boiling Blood. I actually like the fact with Boiling Blood, I'm going to bruise them so they take 30%, like basically more damage, because I've reduced their HP by 30% of all those troops. And then the Bakshi or the Emrys behind me is now going to deal 8% more damage, meaning that is going to punch even harder than it is actually already punching. So I really do like Boiling Blood in Theodore's kit specifically. And then for me, with your last point, I'm not going to lie, put it in detached. 1.6% more skill damage is better than anything here. Even the little 0.5, you know, HP mitigation and this shelter is just not really noticeable. This is just insane, right? And we're not bothered about that much normal attack damage when we are skill-based heroes. So that is the skill tree. I'm going to just say for you guys, if you want to look, or the cavalry tree there, that you guys want to probably run on Theodore as a starter and just to get, you know, to grips with him. And if you have your other cavalry heroes, say you're running 2 or 3 cavalry in one, you know, march, so you can swarm, and you're running this 3-2 combo, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But if you're not running that and you just want a singular march, go Guerrilla, right? Nice and simple. But now we've got one more tree that I'm going to showcase. So we do have, as you guys know, this is the Bakshi skill tree. And I have another skill tree that I've been working on on specifically Theodore and another hero that I'm going to make a video about. So on this is the same skill build basically almost saw working there. So we have the same almost beginning, but instead of going for the HP, this build is all about damage. So if you don't want to be a tankier Theodore that deals really good damage and does debuffs, but you kind of want to be more of a glass cannon, nasty, you know, flanking style Theodore, this is that build, because this is going to be nasty when you see what you do with it. So you're going to go straight across, get Intimidation, the Rage, and we keep boiling blood on here. Don't worry. Don't worry. So then what we're going to go, get Detached. We're going to reduce our normal attack damage by 4%, which is fine when we get an 8% skill damage increase. Absolute crazy for our March, especially for our primary hero, and the secondary hero is now gaining that 8% hero skill damage because of Detached. It's nasty. Because then we're going to go and get the combo which we normally get, which is Focus and Raging Tide. So we get that crit nastiness. And then we finish up with Thirst for Blood. If you're wondering why we go Thirst for Blood and not Caged Animal, Cavalry do not last that long in battle. I'm just being honest, guys. This will gain you just negligible amounts of rage. Honestly, you're going to get maybe 2 rage cycles off and then you're gone. So you're going to get a 2% rage buff, but when you've got it and you're going to start getting a good, you know, run, it's gone. You know, so I just wouldn't use Caged Animal at all. This is more, I'm not going to lie, if you're going to use Cavalry in PvE, in a behemoth, thumbs up to you guys. But Thirst for Blood, just trust me on it, guys. This is the best talent for PvP in the skill tree. So what we're going to do, though, we got some points left, right? Because this is technically 43 points here, and you've got 7 points remaining. And what you're going to take is Encouraging Dance. I'm smashing them all in. Because now, if you've noticed, we've got Head Held High, which is whenever we launch a normal attack, we get a 10% chance of generating Rage, which is great. But we also have now a chance of generating Rage whenever we get hit. So we've got 2 different talents that work basically the same, but in a different scenario. So when we take damage and when we deal damage. So we've got 2 scenarios there. So the Rage Generation combo is beautiful here. What I do then is quite spicy. I'm just going to be honest. I'm staying in this tree. I'm going to stay in this tree. And we're going to go for the HP mitigation. We're going to slap the HP mitigation here. And this is when you're going to be like, what? Because this is going to be, for you guys now, 2 out of 5. And when you're going to start leveling up. So you can see my back sheet's only 55. So he's about 5 levels away now. You're going to see the final build. So when we go to the skill tree, we're going to put those 5 points into there. And we've got, obviously, our last 2 points. And we're going to put it in Steady Hands. So whenever gaining a buff effect, your Legion has a 20% chance to gain Synergy, which increases our hero skill damage dealt by 2%. But this scales up by 2% each time. So this is a 10% hero skill damage increase whenever we gain a buff effect. And you're probably wondering, how do we do that? Well, it's whenever we have our other hero. I'm just being honest, guys. So you got to remember, Theodore is pretty good at dealing damage and applying debuffs to our enemies, right? It's really, really good. This one is for the Garrison, so this is where the skill tree could work if you're going to use it for the Garrison, but as you guys know, you're never going to do that. What you're going to use Theodore, though, with is Emrys, and Emrys gains Passion, and that is a buff effect. And same with Bakshi. Bakshi here grants you 3 different buff effects in his kit. So when you put Theodore in the primary and Bakshi in the secondary, and then you run this specific page on your Theodore now, you're going to gain this Sage buff or Steady Hands buff very often. And it's going to allow you then to pump damage out. So then you're going to have 2 points remaining. And with my last 2 points, honestly, I am going to dump them in overall health. But if you really wanted to put 2% in cavalry speed, that actually is a good idea, because it gives you 6% march speed, which will help you get in and out of fights in PvP, just to let you guys know. So those are, honestly, the skill trees you're going to want. So we'll go over them again. This is the main cavalry tree for Theodore that you're going to run, and you're going to finish off the build by going 5 out of 5 into your boiling blood, and then your last point into detached. And then if you wanted a more very heavy punching power skill build only, this is the build you're going to be running for your Theodore. You're going to put your last points into steady hands, and then with your last 2 points, when you get, you know, out of it, when you're done 50, 8, 9, and 60, shall we say, you can either put your last 2 points in cavalry speed or the HP, just to give yourself basically almost 1% HP, which is just a nice bit of added tankiness. So it's up to you with those ones. And if you are a garrison leader, just to remind you, or if you're looking for a garrison tree, this is going to be your garrison bread and butter. So just remember, this is the level 50 tree right now. With the next 10 points, you're going to put 3 points into here. You're going to put 5 points into garrison resistance, making it so you've got 8 spent. And with the last 2, you can either put 2 points into garrison determination, or put 1 point here and 1 point here. And that is it, guys. That is everything you're going to need to know with Theodore. My full guide on the hero. Is he worth it? I'm going to leave that up to you guys, and I'm going to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments, because I think it's a very kind of cool topic that a lot of people have been talking about. I think he's going to be really good for the higher spenders. I think for the lower spenders and everyone that's looking for a cavalry hero, honestly should just work on Forendo. I think Forendo is just so much more flexible, and you're going to be able to use him, and he has just 3 talent trees that are really insane for you in the future. And you know you can pair this hero with anyone, even because of the way this 3rd skill works. So that's my 2 cents into Theodore and Forendo. Who you should invest in? Is he worth it? Let me know what you think to my thoughts on it, right? But that is it. That's the full Theodore guide. Thank you for watching. Smash a like, comment, and subscribe if you've learned something and you've enjoyed my video guide on this Season 2 Cavalry hero. And with all that, stay safe, guys. Stay sneaky. Peace out.